basically sold themselves to the industry, so they're completely controlled with everything they do. They're told what type of music to make, they're given specific producers to work with. They're not thinking for themselves in any way whatsoever anymore, and that's what was so good about the industry 15 years ago and previous, because I'm choosing 15 years because at which point I think it started going downhill rapidly.
Exactly, we're talking 1997, and I would pinpoint that very year as the year that it all changed.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%, because previous to that you could tell with the type of urban music that was coming out from the UK and the US, the artists were thinking for themselves. They were bringing out what they wanted to bring out. There wasn't as much control going on. They could literally take their track to a label, get it signed, and it would be out. Now it's a case of the label saying, right, this is what you're going to make, this is how it's going to sound, and this is who you're going to work with. From the bottom to the top, from the start to the finish, everything they're doing and releasing now is controlled.
What we're seeing in music videos now, for anyone again that just spends more than a couple of minutes studying it, the same symbols and the same images are cropping up time and time again. Covering of one eye, pyramid signs, all kinds of blatant and not so blatant symbology. What have you noticed about the sort of stuff that's going into videos, and what do you think is going on?
Well, I think videos is the greatest way to get people behind it all, because it's the kids watch them every single day on the likes of MTV, being a prime candidate for one of the biggest corporations involved in pushing the symbology, because if it's a big video from big artists, they don't really care what's in that video, they'll show it anyway. You look at the current cream of the crop right now, as we should call them, as your Rihannas, your Nicki Minaj, it's these type of people. I can't understand why anyone in this day and age can actually listen to that music. No offence to the artists, but their music is absolute crap. And before you even look at the videos, what are kids hearing and thinking, this is great, this is a brilliant artist? Because, I've listened to music my whole life, as you have. What we're hearing nowadays isn't quality music, but it's getting to the top of the charts, and that's because it's all that's being allowed to be shown on the music networks and on the radio stations.
Not even music at all, Nicki Minaj.
Exactly, it's not music, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's become like a carnival act, because some of the stuff that they're showing in these videos isn't fun. It's becoming, ritualistic in some of the symbology that's going on. But kids are watching it and thinking, wow, this is amazing, this is awesome. Where if you look at a video from the mid-90s and before, you'll be seeing people having fun, having barbecues, having a laugh, having a drink, enjoying themselves. There's none of that going on now. It's literally filmed in a studio, hand over the eye, symbology all around, and they're not even noticing it, but we are. And they just think it's the norm to put that in videos, which it really isn't.
And when you question it, why do all these artists put their hands over their eye? People just say, oh, they're trying to look cool, it's just a cool thing to do. Well, if it's a cool thing to do, why is everyone doing it? Why haven't they found a new way to look cool? And there's going to come a point where guys like us have kind of died off, not literally, but, fallen off the scene, no longer active, so all our memories go with us. And I think that's what they're trying to do. It's a generational thing. They're trying to condition an entire generation. People are getting wise to it, courtesy of information such as this. We've got to do all we can to make people aware of how they're being duped, I feel. Something else that is affecting the music business in a major way in terms of the artists is MK Ultra Monarch programming.
Yes.
We're talking mind control. And to a lot of people, to hear that for the first time, to hear that artists, their favourite artists, may well be the subject of mind control experiments is going to be too much for them to accept, and they're just going to chuck it out by default. But it's true, there is absolute validity to this, there is absolute evidence available to suggest that it's going on. What is your understanding of how that is being incorporated into the music game?
What you've got to remember is music and film in our modern day culture, it's so underestimated the effect that it actually has on the overall psyche of everyone, how much when we listen to pop music, when we watch films, it influences us. Most of that is on a subconscious level, so when you take that into consideration, to imagine that level of influence that these media have on us while we're growing up, while we're forming our opinions about the world, if you were to imagine that and then think that the powers that be wouldn't have a way of infiltrating that and making it have this effect on us, well, okay, so is it really so far out to believe that some of these artists would be mind controlled in a way that they could pass off this programming onto us? If you only got to look a little bit into the government black projects, MK Ultra, which stands for Mind Control Ultra, and the people that have come out of these groups, and the harrowing stories of the torture and the things that they've been put through to become what they call MPD, which is multiple personality disorder. Nicki Minaj, She's an absolute textbook example
Absolutely.
of MPD. You can see her in interviews or listen to her in interviews speaking about these alter egos that she has.
Yes.
One of them's called Roman. And if you know anything about MPD or what they do to break people down, they talk about these alters of the mind. They break people down until they have these separate conscious or unconscious sub-personalities that can be drawn upon. These sub-personalities can be programmed with instructions that the other personalities have no idea about. So when Nicki Minaj is talking about Roman, what she could actually be talking about is one of these multiple
Alters. Absolutely.
So for her to
Roman Zelensky.
Roman Zelensky, which I'm sure, if you look into that, that's got some pretty deep connotations as well, just the name. But for her to be talking about that in an MTV-based interview, which at the end of the day is, for the layman, the people that are going to be listening to that stuff, why is that even being mentioned in an interview? That on its own begs questions. Nicki Minaj, another interesting thing is we're talking about how popular she is. I don't know if anyone saw on Facebook this week, there was a young guy somewhere, he went onto Nicki Minaj's page and actually wrote this, have you seen this? There's a big monologue about how much he hated Nicki Minaj.
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
She's ruined the music industry,
yeah.
She's polluted the brains of all these teenage girls. This post got 694,000 likes. Now that really says something, because all these people are watching this, but I think in a way they're actually appreciating what garbage it is at the same time, but it's having almost this sort of hypnotic effect on them. So for someone to write a post about how much they hate an artist and their music and how it's destroying music culture, and this kid was in his teens, so to get 694,000 likes, that's got some validity. And I just think Nicki Minaj is an absolutely perfect example of what we're talking about here with one of these these artists which has been corrupted.
You've got the Roman Zelensky altar, which is an allusion to the film director Roman Polanski, of course, who directed Rosemary's Baby. That one's definitely worth looking into if you never heard of it. And then you've got all these amusing accents that she does. She'll be in an interview or on a track and she breaks into this sort of funny English accent that she does. And people just think it's a novelty, it's just this funny thing that she does. But to me, it seems to be like one of the alters is breaking through. It's easy to hate on Nicki Minaj because she makes such shite garbage music. But when you look into MK Ultra and what it actually involves and what the victims go through, really you should be, having major sympathy for anyone that's had to undergo that, because it's not pleasant. Lady Gaga the same way, because Lady Gaga has alters. She's got this sort of male persona. She dresses up in a suit and, acts like a male. I don't believe that all the artists we're talking about are mind control subjects, but those two to me certainly are.
I think Madonna is another very interesting case, because she's obviously involved in this, I think possibly at maybe a higher level than people like Minaj, because if you watch, this has had an awful lot of coverage, the Super Bowl thing this year, the way that she was portrayed in that ceremony was almost like some sort of high priestess.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get the impression that she's been, one of their playthings for a very, very long time, and she may have been initiated in, although she is probably still a puppet, and she seems to be initiated to a slightly higher level than some of the pop stars that we're talking about, which are more modern and recent, because remember how big Madonna has been for so many years, how many formative lives she has touched with her music videos and her her art. And you've only really got to look what's happened to her over the years, how much she's been manipulated and altered. She's like a ragdoll puppet for basically whatever image they want to portray at any given time. You keep an eye on her, but keep an eye on the videos, because that is absolutely plastered with the kind of symbolism that we're talking about. The all-seeing eyes, the pyramids, the Masonic symbols. It's, her stuff is full of it.
Totally. Do you think it's become almost fashionable for people to talk about the Illuminati? It's a bit of a buzzword. I'm sure a lot of people use it without fully having researched it or understanding what it means, but you're getting reference to it in tracks. There's a current Rick Ross track where he says, he's making money, must be Illuminati. And you hear people say, oh, Jay-Z's Illuminati. Whereas, as far as I'm concerned, these artists aren't Illuminati. In their dreams, really. They would never be up there in the upper echelons of what that secret society represents. They're just puppets and stooges of the Illuminati.
And I think everyone's jumping on the bandwagon without even understanding the actual meaning, or they're just using it because it is the buzzword. And so many times you notice on Facebook, things will be posted and people say the Illuminati are behind it, Illuminati are at it again. And you think, well, no, that's absolutely nothing to do with them. That's just a natural occurring event, but you're blaming it on something you have no clue about because it is the chosen buzzword of the moment. As for the artists themselves, you're absolutely right. In their wildest dreams, they would be part of it. Obviously, the majority of them are controlled from a higher level by elements within that kind of secret society, but they themselves are not Illuminati in any way, and that's all they are, they're pawns.